The world exploded in a scream of steel and dust. One second I was barking orders over the roar of bulldozers on the Seattle construction site. The next, a support beam snapped like a brittle bone, pinning me under a ton of twisted metal. Pain seared through my leg, a white-hot agony that drowned out the shouts of my crew. My vision blurred as I clawed at the dirt, gasping for air that tasted like rust and regret. I'm Oliver, 42, a site foreman who thought he had life figured out, until it all came crashing down 55 days ago. The hospital was a sterile purgatory, a maze of beeping monitors and antiseptic haze. I woke up in the ICU, tubes snaking from my arms, my left leg a mangled wreck held together by pins and prayers. 4 broken ribs stabbed with every breath, and my lung, collapsed like a punctured tire, wheezed through a machine. The doctors said I was lucky to be alive. Lucky? The word tasted like ash in my mouth as I lay there, staring at the ceiling tiles, counting them to keep the panic at bay. 87 tiles, 87 reasons to believe I'd make it out of this hell. But the real hell wasn't the pain or the surgeries. It was Claire, my wife of 9 years, who never showed up, not once. I'd built a life with her, a home in a quiet Seattle suburb with cedar fences and a backyard where our dog Max chased squirrels. I'd raised her son, Ethan, since he was 7, teaching him to throw a spiral, cheering at his Little League games, even building him a goddamn treehouse with my own calloused hands. We weren't perfect, whose marriage is, but we had our rhythm, our late-night pizza runs, our inside jokes about her terrible taste in reality TV. I thought we were solid. I was wrong. Day 1 in the hospital, I called her, my voice slurred from pain meds. "Don't bring Ethan," I rasped. "It's bad, Claire. Just come alone." She promised she'd be there at dawn. I clung to that promise like a lifeline, picturing her walking through the door, her dark hair pulled back, her hazel eyes soft with worry. Morning came. No Claire. The nurses bustled around, their sneakers squeaking on the linoleum, but the chair by my bed stayed empty. Day 2, same story. I told myself she was juggling Ethan, her job at the marketing firm, maybe a flat tire or a sick neighbor. By day 3, the excuses started to crack. I dialed her number again, my fingers trembling as I gripped the hospital phone. She picked up, her voice distant, drowned out by the blare of some trashy reality show in the background. "Yeah, I'll try tomorrow," she said, like I was asking her to grab milk from the store. "Ethan's got a game and the car's acting up." I swallowed the hurt, told her I loved her and got a half-hearted, "You too," before the line went dead. By day 5, worry turned to dread. Was she hurt? Was Ethan okay? I asked a nurse, Emma, to check if Claire had called. Nothing. My calls went to voicemail, her responses growing shorter, colder, until they stopped altogether. Emma, 35, with kind eyes and a no-nonsense ponytail, became my anchor in that sterile storm. She'd sit with me during her breaks, sneaking me extra Jell-O cups, her silence louder than any question. She never asked why my wife wasn't there, but I saw it in her glance, the pity, the curiosity, the unspoken, "What the hell is going on?" I didn't have an answer. Not yet. On day 10, the first danger struck. I woke up choking, my chest tight, my vision swimming with black spots. The monitors screamed as nurses flooded the room, their voices sharp with urgency. A blood clot, they said, lodged in my lung. I was whisked to surgery, the world fading as they pumped me full of drugs. I came 2 hours later, weaker, shakier, but alive. The doctor, a grizzled man with a beard like steel wool, warned me it was a close call. "You're a fighter, Oliver," he said, "but you're not out of the woods." I nodded, too exhausted to speak, my mind stuck on Claire's absence. Where was she? Why hadn't she come? By week 3, I was out of the ICU, shuffled to a regular room with a view of a gray Seattle skyline. My brother Liam was my lifeline, showing up daily with greasy burgers and news about Max. "He's fine, man," Liam said, his voice rough with concern. "Chased a raccoon up a tree yesterday." But his eyes betrayed him when I asked about Claire. Liam's never been good at lying, not since we were kids, sneaking beers from Dad's fridge. "Easy." "Busy," he mumbled, avoiding my gaze. I didn't push, not yet. Week 4 brought the second scare. A fever spiked out of nowhere, my legs swelling red and hot around the surgical pins. Infection, the doctors said, resistant to the first round of antibiotics. They wheeled me back to the OR, the ceiling lights blurring into a kaleidoscope of fear. I thought of Ethan, his lopsided grin when I taught him to bait a hook. Of Max, sprawled across my lap during Sunday football. Of Claire, laughing over burnt pancakes on our 5th anniversary. I didn't want to die, not like this, not alone. They pumped me full of stronger drugs and I pulled through, but the fever left me hollow like a house stripped of its foundation. By then, I'd called Claire exactly twice since that first week. Both calls were short, clipped, her excuses piling up like unpaid bills. "Max needs a vet visit," she said one night, her voice flat. "The sink's clogged. Ethan's got a school thing." I stared at the phone after she hung up, the silence louder than the hospital's constant hum. Something was wrong, deeper than her absence. I felt it in my gut, a cold knot that tightened with every unanswered call. Liam confirmed it on day 28. He showed up with my laptop, his face grim as he helped me log into our bank account. The screen lit up with numbers that didn't add up. $8,000, 0 cents, gone. Siphoned off in ATM withdrawals, transfers to an account I didn't recognize, and a $1,200, 0 cents charge to a high-end watch shop. Claire didn't wear watch. She hated anything flashy, or so she'd told me. My blood pressure spiked, setting off alarms that brought Emma running. "Breathe, Oliver," she said, her hands steady on my shoulder. But I couldn't breathe, not when the truth was clawing its way out. That night, I called Claire again, my voice steady despite the rage burning through me. "When are you coming?" I asked, keeping the bank account out of it. I could hear her chewing, the clink of a wine glass, the murmur of voices in the background. "It's a long drive, Oliver," she said, like I was an inconvenience. "Gas is $6 a gallon, and I'm basically raising Ethan alone right now." I reminded her Liam had offered to drive her, that friends had volunteered, that money wasn't an issue, or shouldn't have been. That's when she snapped, her voice cutting through the line like a blade. "You're not worth the Uber fare, Oliver. Hurry up and die or recover, but I'm done with this limbo shit." I froze, my heart stuttering as her words sank in. Before I could respond, Ethan's voice came through, sharp and unsteady. "We're better off without you." The line went silent as I ended the call, my thumb shaking on the button. I stared at the hospital ceiling, the tiles blurring through tears I refused to let fall. 87 tiles. 87 reasons to keep going, even when my world was crumbling. The next morning, Emma brought me coffee instead of Jell-O, her eyes searching mine. "Rough night?" she asked, her voice soft but probing. I spilled it all, Claire's words, Ethan's betrayal, the money, the watch. She listened, her face unreadable, then said something that stuck like a splinter. "Some people show you who they are when the stakes are high. The good ones stick around, the rest, they run." I didn't respond, but her words echoed as I lay there, planning my next move. I wasn't staying in this hospital another day longer than I had to. Claire thought she could bleed me dry, emotionally and financially, while I was strapped to a bed. She was wrong. I started tracking the bank account daily, watching more money vanish. $500, 0 cents here. $1,000, 0 cents there. A charge for 2 plane tickets to Vegas. Claire hated gambling, said it was for suckers. So, who was she going with? The question gnawed at me, but I pushed it down, focusing on what I could control. Liam brought me documents from our home office, sneaking them past Claire while she was at work. Birth certificate, social security card, our marriage license, a paper trail of a life I was about to dismantle. I called a lawyer, Sarah, using Liam's phone to keep Claire in the dark. Sarah was sharp, no nonsense, her office a cluttered mess of legal pads and coffee mugs. She laid it out plain. In Washington, I was entitled to half of everything, but I needed proof before Claire hid the rest. "She hasn't visited you once?" Sarah asked, her pen pausing. 55 days? I nodded, the number a weight I carried everywhere. By day 50, I was planning my escape. The doctors wanted me to stay another month. My leg was still a mess, the brace bulky and unforgiving. But I couldn't wait. Every day in that hospital felt like another day Claire was stealing from me. Emma helped, slipping me numbers for home health services, warning me about infection risks. "You're stubborn as hell, Oliver," she said, a half smile tugging at her lips. "Just don't die on my watch." I promised I wouldn't, but the truth was, I was risking everything. Day 55, I signed the against medical advice papers. The doctor, the same bearded one, spent 20 minutes trying to talk me out of it. "Your leg's not ready," he said. "You could lose it if this goes south." I looked him in the eye, my jaw set. "I'm losing more by staying." Liam picked me up in his pickup, the back seat rigged with pillows to keep my leg elevated. As we pulled away from the hospital, the Seattle skyline fading in the rear view, he asked, "Where to? Home?" I shook my head, the word tasting like betrayal. "Take me to the Staybridge in Portland. I've got a reservation." Portland was a fresh start, a city far enough from Claire's lies but close enough to keep tabs. The motel room was basic, beige walls, a lumpy bed, the hum of an overworked AC, but it was mine. That first night, I lay awake, Max curled at my feet, his warmth the only thing grounding me. The pain in my leg was relentless, a dull throb that kept time with my racing thoughts. Claire didn't know I was out. She didn't know I knew about the money, the tickets, the watch. That was my edge. And I wasn't wasting it. Liam showed up the next morning with breakfast burritos and a burner phone. "You're going full Jason Bourne, huh?" he joked, but his eyes were serious. He'd been digging, scrolling through neighborhood apps, and found something that made my blood run cold. Claire had posted a sob story on Nextdoor, calling me her brave husband fighting for his life, asking for prayers. The post was dated 3 days after my accident, complete with a photo of us at a Seahawks game, all smiles. She hadn't mentioned me since. The audacity of it, the sheer, calculated gall, lit a fire in me I hadn't felt in years. I opened my laptop and started a list. New bank account, lawyer meetings, apartment hunting, asset documentation, get Max's vet records. Every step was a brick in the wall I was building between my old life and whatever came next. Sarah came to the motel, her jeans and sneakers a stark contrast to the suits I'd expected. "Divorce or separation?" she asked, cutting to the chase. "Divorce," I said, the word final, freeing. We spent hours mapping it out, the house we'd bought together, the cars, the accounts, the retirement funds. "You've got a strong case," she said, "but we need to move fast. She's already hiding assets." That night, I texted Claire from my old phone, keeping up the act. "Doctors are keeping me longer," I lied. "Signal's bad, I'll call when I can." She replied with a single emoji, a thumbs up. No words, no concern, just a fucking emoji. I stared at it, the screen glowing in the dark motel room, and felt something shift. This wasn't just about survival anymore. This was about reclaiming my life. The next week was a blur of strategy. Liam sneaked into our house while Claire was at work, snapping photos of every room, every drawer, every closet. He brought back my clothes, my backup laptop, and a stack of papers that proved our life together wasn't what it seemed. I opened a new bank account, transferred half our savings, exactly half as Sarah advised, and canceled our joint credit cards. I found an apartment online, a ground floor unit with an elevator 20 minutes from our old house. I signed the lease digitally, my hands steady despite the pain shooting through my leg. Claire's Vegas trip was the opening I needed. Liam spotted her car gone, replaced by an airport shuttle van. Operation Clearout was a go. I hired movers, paid extra for packing, and made a list of what was mine. Furniture I'd bought before the marriage, tools from the garage, the TV we'd picked out together but split 50/50. Sarah reviewed it, tweaking the details to keep it legal. The waiting was torture, my mind racing with what-ifs. What if Claire came home early? What if Ethan stayed behind? What if she'd already sold everything I owned? Saturday morning, Liam drove me to the house. The movers arrived in a white truck, 4 guys who moved like they'd done this 100 times. Walking into my home after 55 days was like stepping into a ghost story. The walls held photos of Claire and me, our wedding, a camping trip, Ethan's first home run. But it felt staged, like a set for someone else's life. The house was spotless, cleaner than I'd ever seen it. Max bounded down the stairs, his tail a blur, nearly knocking me off my crutches. I buried my face in his fur, the familiar smell of him grounding me. The movers got to work, hauling out my desk, my recliner, the bed frame I'd bought before Claire. I left her stuff untouched, her vanity, her clothes, her collection of overpriced candles. Ethan's room was harder. I'd been his dad in every way but blood for 9 years. I left his bed, his posters, but took the gaming console I'd gifted him last Christmas. Fair was fair. By dusk, the truck was loaded. I did a final walk-through, my crutches thudding on the hardwood. In our bedroom, I paused at Claire's nightstand, where a photo of us at our 5th anniversary sat framed in silver. I left it there, let her choke on the memory. As we drove away, Max's head out the window, I felt a strange calm settle over me. Claire would come home to a half-empty house, and I'd be gone, a ghost who'd slipped through her fingers. The apartment was chaos that night, boxes everywhere, furniture shoved against walls. Max sniffed every corner, confused but loyal. Liam stayed late, helping me set up the bed, his silence saying more than words. "You're doing the right thing," he said finally, clapping my shoulder. I nodded, but as the door closed behind him, the weight of it all crashed down. I was 42, half-crippled, starting over in a city that felt both foreign and familiar. Claire's Vegas photos popped up on my phone. Her laughing, drink in hand, #living my best life. Meanwhile, my life was packed in cardboard. Sunday evening, my burner phone pinged. Liam, with a video from his doorbell camera. Claire, back from Vegas, standing on our lawn, screaming at the empty house. "He took everything, even the fucking dog." Her voice was raw, unhinged, a stranger's voice in a stranger's life. Max looked up at the sound, then went back to his bone unbothered. I almost laughed. Almost. Claire's texts came next, a flood of rage and desperation. "Where's my stuff? This isn't legal. I'm calling the cops." I let them pile up, unanswered, and forwarded the worst to Sarah. "Buy the book," she texted back. "Stay the course." I turned off my phone and stared at the ceiling of my new apartment, no tiles to count, just bare drywall and a future I couldn't yet see. Claire thought she'd broken me. She thought wrong. This was just the beginning, and I was ready to play the long game. The Portland apartment smelled like fresh paint and regret, a sterile box where I, Oliver, was piecing together a life from the wreckage of a construction site collapse and a 9-year marriage gone to hell. It was day 3 at the stay bridge, my leg throbbing at its bulky brace, Max snoring at my feet. The movers had left my old life in stacks of cardboard, my recliner, my toolbox, the TV Claire and I had argued over at Best Buy. Every box was a reminder of what I'd lost, but also what I'd reclaimed. Claire's screams from Liam's doorbell video echoed in my head. He took everything, even the fucking dog. Good. Let her feel the void I'd carried for 55 days in that Seattle hospital bed, waiting for a wife who never came. My burner phone buzzed at 6 a.m., pulling me from a restless sleep. A text from an unknown number. "I know you're out. Where's my stuff, Oliver?" Claire. She'd sniffed out my escape, probably from Ethan's phone or some slip I hadn't caught. My pulse spiked, the familiar ache in my ribs flaring. I didn't reply. Instead, I called Sarah, my lawyer, her voice crisp despite the early hour. "Document everything," she said. "No direct contact. She's fishing for leverage." I nodded into the phone, my jaw tight. Claire wasn't just a cheating spouse. She was a strategist, and I'd underestimated her for years. The first crisis hit that afternoon. I was hobbling to the kitchen, crutches slipping on the cheap linoleum, when a sharp pain lanced through my leg, not the usual throb. This was fire, spreading fast. Sweat beaded on my forehead as I collapsed onto the couch, Max whining at my side. The surgical pins in my leg felt like they were melting, the skin around them hot and swollen. Infection. The words slammed into me, Emma's warning from the hospital ringing loud. "You're risking sepsis if you push too hard." I fumbled for my phone, hands shaking, and called Liam. "Get here," I croaked. "Now!" Liam's pickup screeched into the lot 20 minutes later. He took one look at my leg, red, angry, oozing, and didn't bother with words. He hauled me into the passenger seat, Max scrambling into the back, and floored it to the nearest ER. The doctor, a young woman with a clipboard and no patience for bullshit, confirmed my fear. A staph infection, aggressive and deep. You're lucky you came in when you did, she said, prepping me for IV antibiotic. Another day, and we'd be talking amputation. Lucky, that word again, mocking me as they wheeled me to a treatment room. Liam stayed, his usual wisecracks replaced by a grim silence that scared me more than the diagnosis. The hospital kept me for 3 days, pumping me full of drugs that left me foggy but alive. Liam brought Max to visit, sneaking him in past the nurses. His wet nose against my hand was the only thing keeping me grounded. Claire didn't call, didn't text, didn't know. I made sure of it, instructing the staff to block her number, but the infection was a wake-up call. I wasn't invincible. I'd walked out of one hospital to fight Claire, but my body was still a battlefield, and I was losing ground. Back at the apartment, I leaned hard on Liam and Sarah. Liam set up a home health nurse, a gruff guy named Tom who checked my leg daily and didn't sugarcoat shit. You're not out of danger, he said, changing my bandages. Push too hard and you're back in the ER or worse. Sarah, meanwhile, was building my case. She'd tracked the $8,000 0 cents Claire had siphoned, linking it to an account in Marcus's name, our neighbor who'd been too eager to help with yard work. The Vegas tickets? For her and Marcus, not her girlfriends. The watch? A gift for him, engraved with initials I didn't recognize. Every revelation was a gut punch, but it fueled me. Claire thought she could bury me. I was digging my way out. The second crisis came a week later during a physical therapy session. My therapist, a former